At the beginning of the movie, we will be introduced to a man named Luisito, or we can call him Luis. Luis and his wife, Leah, just moved to the city about 9 months ago. When they were going to have breakfast, they saw the news on TV reporting that there was a drug dealer named El Calvo who was still on the loose, even though El Calvo was already a suspect and he should have been in jail, and the people who were interviewed by the media said that this country needed a figure like La Soga to kill criminals and corrupt officials. They were informed that La Soga is a well-known killer in Latin America. Back to Luis, who went to a church. Here, Luis was appointed by one of the religious leaders to give several speeches for church members. However, when Luis goes to the pulpit, suddenly there are foreigners who immediately hand him their business cards, claiming to have a job for Luis. When Luis was in the pulpit, he was shocked because behind the man's business card was written La Soga. When they got home, Luis told his wife that he had been found out and they had to leave immediately. Here we are finally informed that the figure of La Soga, the famous killer, is Luis. Luis has been moving cities frequently with Leah because they want to live a normal life like other people. Luis tells Leah to clean up while he goes to meet one of his friends who owes him money. He plans to use the money to relocate to another city. When he got there, Luis immediately asked for his money because he was going to leave this city right away. Hearing this, Luis's friend, who was a shop owner, said that the reason Luis was so sudden was because he didn't have any money yet. Luis replied that he had to get the money right now, and in the end, Luis's friend will try to ask his son-in-law for money, who happens to be at home now. For this reason, Luis's friend asks Luis to wait at this shop while he is home for a while. Soon after, a suspicious man appeared, having taken the goods and on his way to pay for them. That person was obviously not alone. There were two of them, and Luis, who was now hiding behind the store, could finally kill both of them. When Luis returned to his house, there was a foreign man named Jimmy who had previously given Luis a business card while in the church. Jimmy stated that Leah was now in his hands and that Luis must complete the task that he will assign. Jimmy also stated that the two people who attacked Luis were Jimmy's men. However, Luis did not want to put his wife in danger and finally accepted the job, which was actually to kill El Calvo, a drug dealer who had been broadcast on TV. At night, it appears that a woman named Emu tempted a big guy because Emu is very hot, and then Emu invited that man to get romantic in the hotel, but when they were about to get in the car, suddenly, Emu was actually a professional killer. He asked that man, "Where's Leah?" The man, who turned out to be one of Jimmy's men, said right away that Leah was somewhere. But after Emu knew Leah's whereabouts without hesitation, he immediately killed him. The next day, Emu went to the location where Leah was being held hostage, seduced one of Jimmy's men in charge of guarding Leah, and suddenly finally, now that Leah is in Emu's care, Jimmy arrived at the location. When he came in, Jimmy only found his men's dead bodies. Leah had not been there. Jimmy then gathered his men and planned to kill Luis if he had done his duty, because if Luis knows that Leah is not with Jimmy, then it can be assumed that Luis will kill them. Behind that, Luis was approached by El Calvo's men, who informed him that he was now his target and that El Calvo wanted to meet Luis because there was something very important, and Luis agreed to meet El Calvo. This is El Calvo, who is a big drug dealer in this city. El Calvo stated that he was deeply hurt by the officials, particularly the senators, because El Calvo had been a large fund for them prior to becoming an official, but after becoming an official, they wanted to kill El Calvo. El Calvo is still alive because he has an important document that he stores on a flash disk. The contents of the disk are none other than the contents of the list of all corrupt officials. Behind that, it appears that Emu is watching them. Emu, who is bugging that location, is surprised to learn that Luis is a figure of La Soga, and Emu then kills El Calvo and his men. Luis was able to avoid and kill the guards, and when Luis came out, Emu told Luis to get in her car. After going far enough, Emu said that she had killed El Calvo's group. Luis inquired as to why Emu had now saved him, and Emu stated that she was very proud to have been able to save a legendary figure such as La Soga. After parting ways with Emu, Luis calls Jimmy to ask, "Where's his wife now?" Because El Calvo had died according to Jimmy's wishes, but Jimmy lied by saying that he would hand over Luis's wife somewhere. Shortly, 3 of Jimmy's men were ready to kill Luis, so when Luis appeared, they shot him immediately. One of Jimmy's men tries to get closer, but it turns out that it was Luis' trap. Then Luis kills another one of Jimmy's men so easily, and finally he leaves one more person. Finally, Luis managed to corner one of the men and ask where Leah was now. The man did not know because they were assigned by Jimmy to kill Luis, and without hesitation, Luis killed that man.
Where's Leah, coñazo?
After that, Luis decided to go home. Here, he saw a photo of his wife and remembered his past memories. At that time, Liao was the only person who accepted Luis as he was, and Luis and Liao actually really wanted to have children after they lived in this city. Shortly, Imu came to meet Luis, but at the same time, they were surrounded by Jimmy's men, and while they were shooting, Luis' hand was hit by a bullet by Jimmy's men. After that, Imu invited Luis to stay at her house for a while. While being treated, Imu suddenly tempts Luis, but Luis refuses because he doesn't want to hurt his wife. The next day, the scene showed Jimmy, but suddenly, Luis immediately pointed a gun at Jimmy, and behind that, Imu was coming to Lia, who was still being held captive. Imu said that she could kill Luis at any time, but she really wanted to see Luis suffer before killing him. Lia begged Imu not to hurt Luis because Luis has repented for a long time and does not want to be brutal again. Here it is revealed that Imu has grudges against Luis because he killed her father, who was a member of the corrupted government. On the other side, Luis is interrogating Jimmy somewhere. Luis asks, "What does Jimmy really want?" Jimmy said that he wanted El Calvo's flash disk to extort the officials. Then Luis asked, "Where's Leon now?" After being tortured several times, Jimmy says that Leon is no longer with him. Here, Luis promises he will not bother him again as long as Luis wants to let Jimmy go, and Luis agrees as long as in 10 seconds Jimmy can walk out through the door. Seeing the door close enough, Jimmy felt that he could get past it in less than 10 seconds, but when Jimmy started to walk, suddenly Luis shot both of his legs.
Fun doing business with you, Miko.
Jimmy kept trying to get out because he knew that La Soga would never break his promise, but unfortunately Jimmy did not succeed, so Luis immediately killed him. After that, Luis received a message from Emo asking him to come to a place because Liao was already there. Shortly after Luis finally arrived at the place Imu meant, Imu approached Luis with one of the senator's men, who is one of the corruption officials. Here, Imu said that she could have killed Luis yesterday, but what she wanted was to see Luis suffer. Not long after, Liao also came, who was still being held hostage. Imu said that Luis should not fight back if he wants Liao to be safe. When Luis was being tortured, an old man who was a corruption senator appeared and told Imu to let them both go because his business was finished. The old man also knew that Luis was no longer La Soga as before, and Imu said that this was not over yet because she wanted to avenge her father's death on Luis. Imu then loaded a bullet and shot it at Leah's head. The first shot was unsuccessful, and Imu tried again and managed to pierce Leah's head.
Me supongo que iba a ser una sorpresa.
The senator and his men left while Luis looked depressed, and Imu approached, saying she would paralyze all of Luis's arms and legs so that Luis would suffer the most. But it happened suddenly. The senator and his men, who had not gone far, tried to attack Luis, but Luis killed the senator's men first. Then Luis approached the senator and said that he would return to slaughter corrupt officials, and this is what Luis did.
No!
Soon, Luis came to Leah's grave, where he poured out his heart and said Liao would never be replaced by anyone. Luis left there, determined to kill all corrupt officials because he knew who they were thanks to the flash disk, and then the movie ended.